Welcome to the Pursuit of Wellbeing. My name's Maria Brosnan. I'm the founder of Pursuit and your host for the show. We're dedicated to providing wellbeing information, inspiration and support for teachers, leaders and school staff around the world. My guest today is Vanessa McHardy. Vanessa is an Integrative Child Psychotherapist who works in schools and has a private practice in London. She's developed a therapeutic return to school series of programs and initiatives through the generous funding of the Lars Windhorst Foundation. I hope I pronounced that correctly. You can correct me later. You can find these at the website sameseadifferentboats.com. I love that name. Vanessa is a specialist in practical, simple life skills that support mental health and wellbeing. Vanessa, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Maria. It's great to be here.
Thank you. I think let's just dive in. And often when we talk about wellbeing in schools, this podcast is particularly for teachers and school leaders. But we can't be looking at their wellbeing without looking at children's, or we can't look at children's without looking at teachers. How can you talk to the work that you do and how we can kind of make some balance with that, how we can support the wellbeing of everybody in school?
Sure, absolutely, definitely. They're completely interconnected, as shown by stress is contagion. So if you're stressed as a teacher, it's shown that it will actually, the stress goes to the children and their stress and cortisol levels are raised. So I'm always talking to teachers about how they can support themselves to feel really connected, to feel regulated, to feel like they've got the captains of the ship, yeah? But in order to do that, they need to have everybody supporting them. It's a real community thing to, even though there may be one teacher, there's a whole support network around that teacher to make sure that they have all the things that they need to be able to be that captain. And it's, for me, it's really simple stuff. Like for me personally, I walk every morning, 15 minutes. It's the first I get up, I sort of don't even have a drink of water. I just walk and do up and down and come back in. And I find that's incredibly important for my mental health and well-being. And I recently let it slip, holidays, I know routines go and stuff like that. But it's really, I always notice it when I let it slip, that I am a little bit down. I'm not quite as on to it. And I recently found out about something called our connective tissue, which I'm sure people may have heard of. But I didn't realize how important it was for our stress response system. And
so tell us, when you say connective tissue, what do you mean by that? Just lay out the
connective tissue is how I understand it. It's like, there's all this tissue, I think it's called fascia or something, it's all through our body, and it's actually what keeps us upright. It's not our skeleton that does that. And it's all full of water. And it's absolutely amazing. On the website, The Same Sea, Different Boats, we've actually got a section which has got videos and audios, which is resources for teachers and to have in class as well. And there's a little video on connective tissue, and it's actually the actual video of connective tissue is absolutely fascinating and gorgeous and amazing. It looks like a spider web sort of thing, this beautiful, delicate water through. But what happens is when we're stressed, that goes super tight and actually goes dense. And that's normally if we're having a physical trauma, like an accident or something. So all your connective tissue goes hard so you don't lose so much blood. But it also does that when you're feeling emotionally stressed, and it turns on the stress response system and goes all hard and tight so you don't have any flow in your body. And when I saw it, it was like, oh, well, first of all, I was like, that's why I need to drink water, those 8 cups of water a day. And I thought, wow, that's that. And it really helped me. I'm a very visual person. I was like, so now I have been drinking a lot more water, just knowing that actually, in order to help that connective tissue and to have that flow in my body, I need to be drinking that water to support it. But it then really showed me how, with the stress response system, how can we support our bodies to really turn that off? And what's gorgeous about the connective tissue exercises is they're super simple. Like literally one of them is just like lifting your toes up and placing them down again.
So talk us through that. What do you mean? So, okay, I'm sitting down. I've got my feet on the floor.
Feet on the floor. And you
do I need bare feet?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Lift the toes up.
Yeah.
And down. But do it slowly and rhythmically. And I like to close my eyes. Okay. And what you can see, what you'll feel is how that's actually connected to your whole body. It's not just your toes moving in isolation. You'll feel that movement go up your legs. And I can quite often feel it in my shoulders. And it's just that rhythm. Just allow it. And I sort of feel like it's like a little massage for the body.
Yeah? I could feel it going right up the front of my body.
Yes.
Amazing. And so
All the connections.
what is this doing? It's just kind of moving that connective tissue or moving the fluid in the body?
Fluid and energy and light and all that sort of stuff. And it's and so there's that one, and there's actually a series of 3. We've got a little video on there that a physiotherapist has done. One's your shoulders and one's your hands and your feet. And obviously children can do that really easily. It's super simple. That's what I loved about it. It was like a revelation, because I do a lot of breathing exercises, but this is something anybody can do, like lift your shoulders up and let them drop.
Okay. So back to the toe one. So how long do we do the toe one? So I'm still doing that too.
There is no, like when you see it, if you have a look on it, there is no time limit, and there's no amount to do. For me, anything that's done regularly is the most impactful. So if you can do 2 or 3 an hour, that'd be amazing, rather than do maybe like a minute once a day. But if all you can do is 1 minute a day, that's cool as well. Anything's better than nothing, because your whole body's starting to go, oh, that feels good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Oh, yeah. Just remembering that. Yeah. And when I discovered this whole connective tissue exercises, it suddenly made sense to me why walking's so supportive, because it's very rhythmic and it's very gentle. It's like, I don't go out and power walk or anything. It's literally just a gentle waking up my body, waking up my system, and it's your left and your right and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, oh, that makes sense why that really helps settle me and just help me be more in my body, and my body likes that and responds to that. Yeah. So that's one of the things I've learned. And so that's for teachers like that. You can be sitting there at your desk as all the kids come in, and you can be just lifting your toes up and down and just feeling the massage. But I really recommend teachers sharing all of this stuff with the kids, as little as possible to as big as, because these are the life skills that we need in our daily life. It has to be daily stuff that we're doing, little small things daily. Absolutely. Other things that will support change. It's not some big action of, I don't know, but
Yeah, exactly. It's not the 10-day retreat somewhere it's the small everyday actions. I completely agree. That underpins everything we do at Pursuit. And so let's go to the second one you talked about then. So what's the shoulder exercise? How do we do that?
That's literally is a lifting. If you just do one, you lift it, and then you just let it drop down. It's the dropping down is the releasing. You just lifting it up again, and then just letting it go. And then lifting it up. And then just letting it go. And just doing it gently. Yeah. And I sort of give it a little shake, sort of like a little wing.
Yeah.
The other one.
The other side.
Let it go.
We hold so much tension in our shoulders and necks, don't we?
Completely. Yeah. Absolutely. And just accept that. Accept that it might be a bit gristly, a bit tight, and just accept your body where it is. Yeah. And then you're just slowly letting those rhythmic movements. And it just makes so much sense to me of how we can support ourselves. And the other part of that I think is really supportive to think about is your nervous system, and how you can support your nervous system to become more open and relaxed. Because if you think about the body, it just gets tight and tight and tight in stress. And what we're wanting to do is become much more and in our body and more flow. So the other one, and this is a fun one, which is I learned from a somatic therapist, and this is all to do with the nervous system. And it literally is so simple. You literally just stand up and shake, do lots of big shaking, shake, 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 shake. Imagine we're standing, and then you do something called horse lips. Okay, you're going to go like that.
I can imagine.
You're going to go. Yes, very good. So shaking, horse lips. Sound like a car. And then you get smaller shaking, smaller shaking. It's good when you're standing because you've got your feet. Yeah. And more horse lips. Because we hold a lot of tension in our jaws. Yeah. Until you slowly come to a stop. And I always like to put my hand on my chest and just come to a breath and just settle. And I've learned about this one about 1.5 years ago, and it is just fantastic. When you're feeling that stress, and I say to myself out loud, I'll go, you are not being chased by a tiger, and do horse lips. I feel like the reverberation just goes, it's cool. whatever is going on right now, and it goes through your whole body, that sort of reverberation, and you're sort of going, yeah, body, I know you want to behave like I'm being chased like a tiger, and because you're trying to help me out, you think I'm under some threat. And that's what happens with stress. It's a perceived threat, and the body reacts as if you are actually being chased by a tiger. And that's the bit that you need to go, hey, thank you, but not right now. It's just me having to do whatever lesson it is that I'm finding tricky, or what, that's it out loud and just name it to tame it, as they say.
I love that. Name it to tame it.
That's not mine. That's, I think, Dan Siegel. Yeah.
No, we can borrow. Yeah. We can borrow. That's all right.
By saying it loud, you name it. It's the nominating. It's the naming it because otherwise it's just internalizing inside your head, and it's just inside you. You want to get it out and go, okay, this is what's happening. You're behaving like this, and that's cool. We don't need that right now.
Tell me more about that, because I've read quite a lot about naming our emotions and our thoughts, and there's, you can look back to ancient Buddhist practices where they call it noting, where when they're meditating and a thought comes in, they just note that thought. And so it's a similar kind of thing in modern kind of psychology and psychotherapy, where naming things has been shown through some really interesting studies to just calm things down, because otherwise they're kind of swirling around in our minds. So what's a practical way we can actually do that? So if we're feeling, worried or stressed or anxious, what are we actually going to name then?
So for example, I'm just thinking one of the times when I was really stressed, which was to do with the visa application. And I wasn't saying that, I would just say for example, I walked into the office at a school, and I've got a 1 to 5 scale, which is how are you feeling, and 5 is when you're really super stressed. And I walked in and I was talking to her and I said, I'm at a 5. And she said, wow, I've never seen you at a 5. Like at a 5, I said, this is me at a 5. Properly. And just that's naming it.
I see. Right. Great.
I'm here. And I'm not, there's nothing to be embarrassed about or feel bad about, or I'm not coping with everything, because there's a lot of stuff that adults do that want to appear to be coping all the time. It's okay to be at a 5. I'm here at a 5, and I think we had a chat, and then we had a bit of a laugh, and that helps diffuse it, and it's the sharing of it, sharing where we're at, and being okay with where we're at. And I think that's one of the things. I heard a statistic from a guy in New Zealand, Mike King, where it was something like 80% of people do not ask for help when they're having mental health difficulties. Mm-hmm. Everything we do is geared around getting people to ask for help. That's so powerful.
I was speaking with a teacher colleague recently, and she said she has her game face, the bright, sparky, optimistic one. And often, and I've noticed this a lot in schools, wellbeing leads, anybody that's somehow involved in wellbeing support or leadership, there's some strange expectation that they're always on, they're always smiling, they're always optimistic. And so I firstly want to just, burst that balloon. You don't have to be that. But she was saying that she has her bright game face on every day, and she goes home and cries every night. And it's exactly what you're describing. It's exhausting. It's unhelpful for everybody, because there's an inauthenticity to that she has to try and show something that she's not feeling. So by naming it, just by talking to somebody saying, wow, I'm at a 5 today. I use the opposite scale where 5 is the best and 0 is the worst, but still it doesn't matter. As long as you're naming what you're feeling and sharing it with somebody, it's so powerful. And that statistic is frightening. 80% of people don't ask for help.
Yeah, when he was saying, we've got to change the way we target this and how we work with people, because people just maybe, with the next generation, if we are able to, like I said, the scale that I've developed, which is a whole communication system for schools. And it's super simple. It's just, you can ask a whole classroom, where are you at? And with them, but it's not just that. I've got a whole lot of different worksheets, which are essentially just like gingerbread men that you just draw and colour in. What does your 1 look like? What does it feel like when you're at a 1, when you're feeling really great in this scale? and colour it in, get to know yourself, and then through the scale. And when I was developing the scale, it was really fascinating. I realised at a 3, what I would do is my toes would hold on. Mm-hmm. I'd start to tense and hold on with my feet, and my shoulders would go a bit tight, and I'd started to notice what things would trigger that off. Anything to do with starting to run late for school, that would be like, oh, I start to get to that place. And just starting to having a much deeper relationship with yourself. And, children and teachers can do that all the time. I would be doing that, daily. And I think that's what's a really exciting opportunity that we have right now as schools, is that well-being and pastoral care is front and centre. Yeah. And it has never been. And so for the first time ever, it's like, yeah, we will do a breathing exercise. We will be doing things to do with talking and circle times and but we'll be doing it daily, not once a month, and I think that's going to have the opportunity to have a profound difference in the foundations is there if schools really want it and go for it. And then we'll see the benefit, because then you are going to get better results and all these sorts of things that schools have been focusing on through the different reasons for that. But we'll see that when children are much more connected and relaxed and calm and feel are in them, themselves and are open to learning, then lots of potential can come out.
That's fantastic. Absolutely. And I love the word excited in that, where there is an exciting opportunity here. And well, it leads nicely to your work that you've been doing around same sea and different boats. Talk to us about that, because that's a free program that you have for schools at the moment. Tell us about that and what's involved in that program.
Yeah, so that was the last Windhorse Foundation came to me and asked how we could help children about 2 weeks into COVID. And I said, well, we can't get access to kids at the moment, but we can support parents and we can support teachers. And so we developed different online Zoom groups and one-to-one calls and different programs through that. And then we ended up developing an entire website with resources, which have got the connective tissue resources on. It's got meditations on there. And it's also got worksheets that we developed for the Year 6 leavers and then also the Year 11 leavers, who were obviously leaving school without physically being there, huge transition periods that they just weren't having their normal rituals. So we did a whole workbooks around that for them. And we've then also that we made available the 1 to 5 scale for any of the schools that wanted the training for that and developed that. So I think we've had I think by the end of September, 5,000 children will have benefited from that system and that support. And those schools that did put it into place have already said that, they had a much greater bond with the children, and they weren't actually having to do discipline techniques because the children felt met and seen. So then it sort of takes care of the other stuff, which was awesome to get that feedback. Mm. And then the Same Sea Different Boats, the actual therapeutic program came about. It's not my saying. I heard it somewhere about because everybody's saying we're all in it together. And obviously for some people, their experience of what that may have been was very different to somebody else's bubble. And so it was sort of like we are on the same sort of sea, having the similar experience, but how your boat may be could be very different. And then we developed it too, like actually in the PowerPoint and stuff, even the sea was different. Sometimes the sea could feel really flat and quite sunny, to all the way through to feeling incredibly stormy and stressful and scary. And I know myself that could happen in a day, let alone, it was such a strange time when we were in full lockdown, but it's still a strange time. And so I feel like in the development of it, we realized that what was important was that people got to a place where they were okay with where they were at with it, with the whole situation. And to know how to settle into your body and to be connect to yourself and have that was the most important thing. And then we developed so the program itself is the kids come in, they make their boats, and then they come in another day and they make some more boats, just representing that it wasn't just a experience, it's lots of different experiences. And then they look at other people's boats and write letters and see other people's boats, and then that whole becomes a whole sea with all the different boats on it. And then that goes into a collective space where all the different classrooms come together with all of their visuals. And then with the idea at the end of it, they would employ an artist to make some sort of representation of the historic element of what took place. So it's a whole sort of package.
Mm. That's remarkable. And I love that metaphor that, of the sea and our different boats and our different experience. And throughout this whole experience of COVID and lockdown, it can be a stormy sea 1 minute, and then the sun comes out and we feel relief and we feel calm. And that's a beautiful metaphor.
How you anchor yourself through those stormy seas, and that's where, coming back to the body, but as far as I am concerned, is the only way through it. Because the more you know how to connect to your body, the more you know how to turn that connective tissue system on, how to keep the nervous system open, super practical. Those things are the things that are going to help you move through and go, okay, this is happening right now, and that's good. But I can choose to stay here and breathe the quality that I want my breath to be, and engage from that place, rather than constantly firefighting and feeling like, I've got the wind, big long grass and the wind just going whichever way. But actually we want to be like a knowing tree. We know who we are. We know that we're connected to the stars, that we're made of stardust. I love that. We've got 100 billion neurons on our brain. We're in these amazing bodies. The more we can connect to that knowing, then things will pass and we will move through it.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you, Vanessa. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we start to wrap up? Anything?
I know we were talking offline, and I was talking to somebody else, and I thought, if I could be a teacher, what would be the one thing I would do? And the one thing I would do with my class is that I would really encourage them to, when they came in, to move their chairs gently. It might sound like a silly thing, but what you'll notice is when you go into classroom, there's a lot of banging and clanging and crashing of chairs, and it's kind of, everybody's sort of oblivious to the noise. But when you're not used to the noise and you come, it's like, whoa, that's really full on. And what is actually happening is everybody's bodies are experiencing that banging and clashing and all that noise. So you're instantly going into stress. The body's instantly going to be going, oh, right, defend against that. That doesn't feel good. And so you can instantly change the whole vibe of the room by just getting them to gently move their chair, not like in slow motion, maybe for fun, but no, but just to be mindful and just to be aware of actually, how am I moving this? And it does actually affect the entire classroom, and take responsibility for that part of it. That would be a number one on my list of just like how you come into the classroom, how it is, and to be that sort of respectful, loving presence that will then support the whole classroom and how it goes through next, because nobody will be in as much stress. It's just one way you can take it out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So Vanessa, how can people connect with you? Where are the places they can find you online?
Sure. So I've got the Same Sea Different Boats website, which is www.sameseadifferentboats.com. And there's also my other website, which is www.lighteducationtraining.com. And I am on Twitter, so I'm at Vanessa McHardy.
Do you use Twitter very much? Is that somewhere?
I can look. I'm sure I get notifications, don't I, through email. So,
great. Thank you so much, Vanessa. It's great to hear your thoughts, and I just love that groundedness and just being in our bodies and taking your breath. The simple things we can do every day to take care of ourselves and to pass these things on to our children and young people that we're working with every day. The ripple effect cannot be understated or underestimated. So thank you. And thank you everybody for joining us today.
Thanks so much for watching. Check out our website, pursuitwellbeing.com, for information about our 5-step wellbeing action plan for teachers and school leaders. There's a link in the description below. Or take our free teacher anxiety quiz at teacheranxietyquiz.com. The quiz only takes a couple of minutes and you'll get a better understanding of where you are today, plus tips to immediately feel better. I'd love you to connect with me on Twitter at Maria Brosnan. And if you enjoyed the show, please hit the subscribe button. If you feel inspired, give us a thumbs up, comment, and share it with your friends.